Chapter 31 Van Orton Street 3:14 p.m. A bunch of druggies used to live there. They got evicted, so they trashed the place and bolted in the middle of the night. They dumped Radar out on the street like somebody's garbage. The old man reached down and scratched Radar behind the ears, carefully avoiding his bandage. Radar wagged his tail happily. Radar obviously knew the old man and liked him, so Alex breathed a little easier and figured the old man must be okay. The old man opened the gate into his yard and the next door and ushered them through them. Then a bunch more juggies got in and burned the whole place down. Almost took my house with it, but the fire trucks got here in time. He paused at the porch steps and glanced over the empty lot. This used to be a good neighborhood. He turned sharply at Alex. You do drugs? Alex shook his head. The old man nodded approvingly and then opened the front door. Then come on in. I bet you kids could use a snack. Radar darted right in like he had owned the place. Alex hung back. The old man looked at him curiously and then sat Alex staring at the old man's coat pocket. Is that... The old man laughed and slid the skinny black object out of his pocket. Remote control. I had the news on. The house reminded Alex of his grandmother's. Everything inside was dark green and plaid. Little circles of lace draped the arms and backs of the sofa and chairs. A big oval rug in the entryway looked a little threadbare. It all felt familiar and oddly comforting. Call me Mac, said the old man, his voice suddenly quiet and gentle. It's short for McKnight. That's Mrs. Mac on the sofa. I'm Alex. That's my sister, Nunu. Guess you already know Radar. Alex followed as Mac led them into the living room, where a tiny, stooped old lady sat on the sofa. She didn't look up as they entered. Her eyes were glued to the TV. It took Alex a minute to realize that she was watching a preschool cartoon, all bright colors and happy, bubbly songs. Mac bent down close to her and squeezed her shoulder softly. We got company, Dottie. This is Nunu and Alex. Dottie turned and noticed them. She broke into a wide smile and reached out to pat Nunu on the head. Bunny! She explained, clapping her hands. Then she looked at Alex. Bunny, she said seriously. Her eyes were clear and green, but even Alex could tell that she no longer knew what she was seeing. Dottie turned back to the TV and bobbed her head ever so slightly to the bouncy characters launched into another song. Have a seat, Mac said. I'll go get us some snack. Alex didn't know what else to do. He took a seat and waited. Radar curled up into his feet. Nunu settled in between Alex and Mrs. Mac and then leaned over and whispered, Is Grandma here? Huh? It smells like Grandma. It smells like perfume and old socks. Yep. It didn't take long for Nunu to get sucked into the cartoon. Radar put his head on his paws and drifted off to sleep. Alex just sat there at a loss. Where would he go next? What could he possibly do now? He needed a new deal. He was all out of ideas. Alex heard a low murmuring in the next room. He slid off the end couch and followed the sound into the den. The voice was coming from a TV. The news was on. Alex paused in the doorway. From the side, he couldn't see the television, but could clearly see that he wasn't sure that he wanted to. But he had to. He took a deep breath and stepped into the door. To recap today's horrifying events, in what appeared to be the coordinated series of attacks on a major American institution, 3 or possibly 4 commercial jets were hijacked by suspected terrorists this morning and deliberately crashed into buildings in New York and Washington. At approximately 8:45 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 A Boeing 767 out of Boston was hijacked and intentionally flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. It was struck around the 94th floor, and smoke and flames were immediately seen pouring from the building. There, at 9:03 Eastern Time, a second 707 United Airlines Flight 175, also out of Boston, banked hard over New York Harbor and flew directly into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. It struck the south floor of the building around the 80th floor, sending a fireball out of the opposite side of the building. At approximately 9:40 a.m., a third plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. That plane, American Airlines Flight 177, left Washington Dulles this morning en route to Los Angeles, but was apparently hijacked and turned back into its deadly mission. A fourth flight, United 93, out of the New York and bound for San Francisco, had crashed into a rural area in western Pennsylvania. Details are unclear now, but sources tell us that the plane may have been had for the White House as its target. We also have received reports that the passengers aboard United Flight 93 fought back and caused the plane to crash at an uninhabited area, preventing what could have been a much bigger tragedy. Then, at about 10 o'clock this morning, a truly unthinkable came to pass. All of us, 110 stories of the South Tower of the World Trade Center, completely collapsed, plummeting into the streets below. The North Tower continued to burn for an hour and a half. Then it too completely collapsed. They were to believe that the hundreds of, possibly even thousands of workers and unknown number of fire, police, and rescue personnel still trapped in the two floors where they went down. Both collapses sent a massive cloud of dust and debris roaring through the streets of lower Manhattan. All that remains of the Twin Towers is a smoldering pile of rubble, and that continues to burn fiercely at this hour, hampering the rescue efforts. Other buildings around the World Trade Center have been heavily damaged by the fires and destruction of the Twin Towers. Fire officials tell us they believe the collapse of the World Trade Center 7 is imminent. The death toll from today's event is unknown at this time, but it is expected to be reached the thousands. Alex heard a cough behind him. Max stood in the doorway, holding a plate of cookies. The old man dug the remote out of his pocket and muted the volume. "You didn't know?" "I knew," said Alex. "But there's knowing and there's seeing. Seeing was 1,000 times worse. Seeing made it real." They went down so fast," he said, his voice a whisper. "Is it true?" "Of course it's true," Mac answered gruffly. "No, I mean, there were people still inside?" Mac nodded and looked away. Alex felt weak. He sat down heavily on the couch, tears rolling down his cheeks. "He's not coming home," Alex whispered. "What?" "My dad." Max scowled. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." "No, you don't. My son was in the North Tower, and I expect him to come walking down the street any minute." Alex shook his head. "Not my dad." "Stop it," Mac barked. "But he's not." "Don't talk like that." "But it's true. You don't understand. I was supposed to give up Radar and take him home, but now I can't because he doesn't even have a home, and if I take Radar home, then my dad's not coming home, and it's all my fault." Max stared at him. "You're making less sense than Dottie, son." "I told him." "What?" "My dad." Alex took an unsteady breath. I told him I hate you." Alex's shoulders shook as he wrapped his arms around his legs and buried his face in his knees. Mac laid gently on his shoulders and then let him cry. Finally, he spoke up quickly. Son, help an old man. What that all got to do with Radar? Alex pulled his head up. I already told you. I made a deal. If I take Radar home, then Dad will come home. Mac nodded slowly. You made a deal. I thought if I did a good thing, I could undo a bad thing. Mac chuckled. Alex scowled. Don't laugh at me. Son, I'm only laughing because I've been doing the exact same thing all day. Mac led the way back to the kitchen and found some tissue so Alex could blow his nose. My latest deal was to stop watching the phone. I convinced myself if it wouldn't ring as long as I was staring at it. I thought if I could hold out for 5 minutes, then it would ring, and then it would be my son. The longest I made was 31 seconds. What's his name? Bobby. He's an investment banker. You know what an investment banker does? Alex shook his head. Me either. All I know is he moves money around. My dad moves people around, Alex said, with a hint of pride. He drives the PATH train in Manhattan. My son rides that train to work. My dad doesn't ride, he stands. He goes off every morning in a crisp white shirt, and every night he comes home with a wrinkled and pit-stained with his sleeves rolled down. That's just like my dad. I'd like to meet your dad. I'd like to meet your son. Bobby's our only one. Real sweet kid. Listen to me, kid. He's in his 30s. Probably about your dad's age, I guess. Mac's face clouded up. He doesn't deserve... His voice made a little choked sound, and Alex understood. Mac cleared his throat. He volunteers at the soup kitchen downtown, gives blood twice a year after his mom started to slip. He moved back in to help take care of her. He even gets us tickets to the ball games a couple of years. Yankees fan? Alex motioned to Mac's cap. He's dreams in pinstripes. You? Me? Yep, me and my dad. They were both quiet for a while. Mac broke into silence. He was a good boy. Alex looked sharply at Mac. Is, he corrected. It took a second for Mac to realize what he had said. Then he broke into a smile. You got your dad's number? Alex held up his phone. Let's give it another try. Mac picked up the kitchen phone and dialed. Alex sat on the table on his cell phone and punched the speed dial for his dad. Mac put the phone up to his ear and then brightened. It's ringing. Alex sat up straight. Mine too.